Good afternoon. Welcome to Teacher Boot Camp for middle school and high school. We're so excited to have you all here today. Those of you that will be joining us later by catching the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have KSU I Teach leading our session, Anna Moreno, and she will have an opportunity to tell you more about herself in just a moment. I am Chandra Schauder, a PL specialist here with Great GaDOE. So excited to have you here once again, and we're going to dive into our presentation. So we always want to make sure you understand where you are in the framework, in the progress of our great initiative. So we are coming out of setting those goals and creating those action steps that's going to align to us getting to that end goal. And we are attending our academic boot camp sessions. We're attending our teacher boot camp sessions. And there are other sessions, of course, for our leaders that are at play at this point. And we're receiving that coaching based off of what is being requested. So, of course, if you are new to attending boot camp and catching the replay, we always want to make sure that you understand what the great vision is, as well as Georgia's personalized learning definition. So here we give you just a moment to look that over, but I'll also go through and read the great, sorry about that, the great vision. So Georgia envisions personalized learning as a way to remake K-12 education in ways consistent with the transformations taking place in other industries as a means to bolster Georgia's economic competitiveness while preparing students to thrive in a global economy. Go ahead and switch over. So your roles are also important. We have our coaches, or specialists, and then we have our practitioners, right? So we want to make sure that you understand what your role is in the work. If you're a coach, it's to build that capacity, supporting both the teachers and leaders, being that cheerleader, assisting with that co-planning and designing, and monitoring the progress of the great work. As practitioners, we want to make sure that we are implementing with learners these strategies that we're getting as we sit in on trainings, planning for that, building that capacity, collecting that data and analyzing it, not just with ourselves and our colleagues, but also with our students, and then celebrating that success as we get closer to our goals. So as being a part of the great family, it's important that you know that you matter and that we have a shared understanding of our sessions on how we are to engage. So we want to make sure that we are definitely making those connections with each other, understanding that we are in a safe space. So feel free to use your voice, speak up, model those strengths, and align your positive energy with personalized learning. So do not neglect to ask those questions, engage fully, integrate any new information, open your mind to the various viewpoints that may be shared on today, and then utilize what you learn by taking it back to the classroom. So here's my favorite part, and Anna's going to take over from here.
Yep, I was going to say I can take over. So we did a little 3-minute icebreaker. We want to pick one of these options to get to know you a little bit better. So I'll kick it off just to warm you up. And so I'm doing the shout out to my school and a fun fact. And my shout out is KSU, Kennesaw State University, because, you know, I love working there. And my fun fact is this Thursday, they do a chili and cheer, and it's a celebration of individuals that have worked for Kennesaw for a certain amount of time. And it is my 5th year working there. So they're actually doing a little celebration and feeding me and others on campus tomorrow. So I'll make a journey because it's about an hour drive to get there, but it's worth it. I'm excited. So Patsy, I would love to connect and hear from you if you want to give us an icebreaker about yourself.
Okay, I'm torn, but I believe I'm going to name my favorite winter activity and why. Well, my favorite winter activity will be the scholarship gala that I attend yearly. And that's because it's a scholarship gala. We get to dress up and look fancy, all in the name of raising money for scholarship. So that's one of my favorite winter activities.
I love that. Whenever time permits, Patsy, I would love to hear more about this gala, this scholarship gala. It sounds like it's fun. You all know who I am. I've already said I'm Chandra Schroeder, appeal specialist. And just to reshare what I shared this morning, one unique thing or one thing that makes me unique. I'm not just an educator, I'm a marketer too, but I'm not the one that calls your phone constantly talking about insurance. I do love designing things. I love websites, and I love all things creating that content piece. So before I was an educator, I did work in the world of marketing. So that's a fun fact about me.
Awesome. Well, I want to share with you our agenda for today. And so what we'll be doing is talking about 3 of the pillars. We know that many of our schools have a focus standard of PEF, prioritized executive function. But know that when we talk about learner agency, dynamic communication, growth and mindset today, they really do intertwine with each other and overlap. So I want to reassure you that all the great things that we are doing on this journey with personalized learning, it's nothing new. These are best practices that we have been doing for years as educators. And I've been in education for 22 years, and it's crazy to say that I've worked that long because it doesn't feel like it. But as I go through these standards and learn about them, oh yeah, I've been doing that. I've done that with my first year of teaching. So that's really what it is. It's just now just putting a spotlight on it and showing the importance and having those conversations, the language behind personalized learning with our stakeholders, with our students. Because once you start modeling to them, then they themselves become ownerships of it. So again, I'm going to go back to PEF for a few minutes because I want you to understand that when people struggle with executive function, it really does impact them at home and in school and in life, because this is our mental process that enables us to plan, focus our attention, remember instructions, juggle multiple tasks successfully. And our brain needs these skills to set filters. We filter out these distractions and we prioritize tasks and we set and achieve goals and the ability to control our impulses. So it's really important as educators that we begin to model this for our students, because as an adult, sometimes we even lack certain executive function skills. I know I'm at fault for working on something and a thing will pop up on my screen and I'll be like, oh, I got to go do this. And I have to refocus. Nope, Anna, get this job done, finish this out, and then go look at that. So we struggle with our executive function all the time. And I love this about what we're going to focus in on today with the learner agency and the growth and mastery mindset. There's a strong connection between setting goals and maintaining the motivation required to successfully attain them. In fact, in 1960, behavioral research led to the understanding of the relationship between these concepts, and research developed theories to shed insight on concrete ways that one influences the other. So the research behind it is just mind-blowing. So the first one we're going to look at is learner agency today. And I always like to start off with talking about the actual Georgia Professional Standards Commission's definition. So here you'll see that when learners advocate for their own needs, preferences, and interests to plan and drive their learning. As an educator, I get that verbiage. But as an outsider, meaning our students, we might be like, oh, wait, what does that mean? So this is one of the easier definitions, I feel like, because it really is saying that we are going to teach our kids to be their own guides, to be their own cheerleaders for their education. They know themselves best, so they're going to be able to help drive where that learning needs to go. And when we look at all of these standards, Georgia does a great job of putting them into components, or I like to say buckets. You'll hear me call them either buckets or components or parts. using multiple language to describe it. So the three components of learner agency is having a flexible or innovative learning environment, supporting our learners to identify and advocate their preferred modalities, talents, and interests, and then to ensure that their learning experiences truly reflect their preferences when it comes to their modalities, interests, and talents. So we're going to take each of these components and break it down for you. When we talk about that first one, flexible and innovative learning environments, this is where we want to move away from that traditional desk, chair setting. We have found that people are more motivated, more engaged when you have these open concepts or these warm feeling concepts. So these are some images that I love to share. Just look at the seatings. There are chairs around tables or open benches. Here you have an actual this is probably more like a lab, but they have their green screen for recording. They have where students can do robotics. I love this because this, as teachers, Patsy, what grade do you teach? I should ask that.
I am actually an academic coach in high school, 9 through 12.
Okay, so for high school, because even elementary, because I think of these learning spaces and they're like, how can I do that? Because it might be hard to get some of the seating in your area. But this picture I love because this is doable. Putting up a whiteboard in your room. I mean, there's pullable, stickable ones that you can now put up in your walls for kids to be able to stand and collaborate and work. Or if you get permission from your administration, you could do chalkboard walls. Now they sell the black paint that you can paint and people can write on. And trust me, you don't have to go to old-fashioned chalk. They have these, they call chalkboard markers, where when they write on them, they won't smudge, but you take a wet cloth to wipe them away. So you can get that in your space. Easily and affordable to do. These are other examples of that flexible spacing. So you can see how they bring in a comfy chair, but they still have their tables and chairs. This is truly old-fashioned, but I love the decor of this picture because it really does have an ambiance. I'm saying that word wrong. The ambiance of the room is very warm and inviting, and you can tell that it's definitely a foreign language class. This teacher, they worked hard to get to where having a room like this with the tables, the comfy leather chairs. Here there's more of the bench seating, and these are movable walls because some of our high schools now are actually creating spaces like this. They're modeling themselves after Google and Microsoft workplaces because they have found, research has shown that when you have those spaces, the motivation increases and the productivity goes up. So why not bring that? And then it sets the tones for where kids might be in the future when they go out into the real world. So that second bucket was about supporting the learners in identifying and advocating for their preferred modalities, tests, and interests. So some questions to ask yourselves is, do you provide multiple intelligence tests and have discussions with your students on learning how they learn best? And there's a lot of multiple intelligence tests out there that really do hone in on, is the child a kinesthetic learner? Are they musically inclined? Are they tactile? So I do support taking the time to do something like this because it allows you to know the student better and allows the student to know themselves even better. And then when you're planning for learning, you're bringing that in, you're incorporating that in. And also to model for the students how to advocate for themselves because they need to be taught that language. They need to have that safe environment where it's non-judgmental and they can easily say, hey, wait a minute, I don't get it. Please explain it to me in this way because that's how I learn best. We want to teach them to advocate for themselves that way. So the last component of learner agency is to ensure learning experience truly reflects those modalities and talents and interests. So I would say to yourself, how do you assess the learning experiences based on students' preferred modalities, talents, and interests? Are you having reflection? Do you give your kids quick surveys for them to send you feedback on a lesson that you did? That's a great way to assess how that learning is going, because I don't want to sit and teach one way if the students aren't engaged in it. Like, I want to be able to present content to them where they're highly motivated and they're enjoying it. And I love feedback. I love critique. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as an area of how I can grow to become even better. And that's what we want to model for our kids. So asking for their feedback about how you did, they're truly going to respect you because you're being authentic with them. So we're going to watch this. Oh, and you know what? Let me unshare and share again, because my fear is I did not share my sound, because that is one thing that I am known to do. I wanted to give you guys, share a video with you about promoting student agency.
Hi everyone, to my channel, and thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be talking about trying to promote student agency by giving students more choice and voice when it comes to communicating their conceptual understanding. So if you're interested in this topic, then please keep on watching. So you can see that I have a response choice board here for students to be able to choose from. And I like to pose this question to my students: how do I show evidence of my learning and understanding? And so there are a lot of different formats and different digital tools that we can use to help them to communicate, to articulate their understanding. And I've got a few suggestions here. So I've tried to put the little icons for each of the digital tools. For example, if you ask students to choose one of these different tools from the choice board and they choose the record podcast, then you might want to look at.
Sorry about that. That was my bad.
Hi everyone.
I'm going to fast forward to where we left off. I think we were about.
Padlet works really well. You have the option of connecting different posts on a Padlet wall so that it can create a beautiful concept map, or even using Creately, which will create a beautiful graphic organizer for you as well. I think also, moving down to the graphic organizer, Canva is a wonderful tool that I know lots of educators use around the world, and they do have a free option where you have so many templates to choose from, and they're so visually appealing as well. I'm not a designer. I don't have a great eye for great visual design, but I find with Canva it really helps me to give me a format to make my message clearer. So I think we can encourage students to use Canva as well. Now, these different suggestions on this choice board, I think we can ask our students to use the choice board either during a unit, so it may be just to answer a conceptual question, or it could be used, I think, as a format for a culminating performance task, which means that they may be building an e-portfolio that showcases their understanding from the unit. So there are some other really creative ones that students actually suggested, and that was a comic book using Pixton, or an animated cartoon using Powtoon. I think that at university, we have to give a lot of oral defenses when it comes to dissertations, and so giving students an opportunity to deliver an oral defense then helps them to realize or practice what happens in the tertiary world when it comes to defending your ideas. Of course, we can also ask our students just to make videos, recordings, make a website that showcases their learning as well. So I like to reframe assessment as trying to find evidence of student learning and understanding. And if we reframe assessment in that way, that means that we can actually collect both quantitative and qualitative data to not only inform our practice, but to let our students know of their progress and their achievement during the unit and also at the end of the unit. So I hope you found this useful. I've seen a lot of wonderful choice boards that have been created by different educators around the world. And so please leave a comment in the section.
So I love a good choice board. And we wanted to be able to give you a moment to practice that. So I do have a choice board that I'm going to share with you in chat that you can open up. You can make a copy of it and keep it on your own and use it with your students. So let me grab that. And this choice board is was actually created by Esther Park. So if you want to look her up, she does have her own website, but she does I mean, it's a great job of a useful choice board. And I'll bring it over to my screen as well so that you guys can see this from the area. So you'll see that the first the first 5 are blank. We want to give you that blank one, but I've created some at the bottom that you can actually go and do. So if you go to 6 and you'll see that it is an actual choice board. So, you know, my learning target was we were summarizing chapter 2 of Esperanza Rising. And so I gave my students the choice to make a comic strip, do a music or a rap, write a letter, or reenact it. And so as they click on it, this button lets them go back because maybe they click on it, they read it a little bit more. This is not for me. I can't do this one. And they'll go to the next one. Or they come here. Oh, yeah, I can do this one. So they watch the video. And I love Chrome Music Lab because if you click Chrome Music Lab, they can create songs. And I've used this in my classroom, especially it hits really well with those kids that are musically inclined. And so, but you might have writers. If you click on that, it'll take them to Storyboard. And I love Storyboard. There's free version because you have to log in, but there's also a free version or a paid version. So when you click on it, you can see that even the free one, it has, you know, like there's great graphics, there's great things that, you know, you can create and pull in. Even with the free. So you don't always have to buy something, you know, to make it work. So that is Storyboard. And I was going to give you a few minutes to kind of look that over and really consider doing choice boards in the classroom. You know, we talked about this choice board a lot in our earlier session because of the simplicity of it. You know, there's only 4 choices. So students who have a hard time making, what am I going to do? Well, it's only 4 choices, so they'll make a quicker decision. You know, you can beef it up and add more to it if you like, to those students that you know are high achievers and want to do more. But a good digital choice board is a great way to start with that learner agency because you're giving your students a voice. They feel heard. They want to do a great job. And so I truly encourage you to expand on that and do that. All right, so I'm going to go forward and we're going to talk about dynamic communications. So again, we're going to look at the definition of dynamic communication. And this is a mouthful. As the Georgia Professional Standards defines it, it is candidates facilitate communication that flows multi-directional from all stakeholders to meet learner needs in a variety of flexible formats. I mean, that's a lot. If you're not in education, you're like, huh? So it's basically like to teach it and to model it to my students and parents. It's saying that I am going to use all different types of formats to communicate what's going on in our classroom. And it is an open communication because I want your feedback. And so that's, you know, what that definition is really saying. So the 3 components that we look at We want to model and nurture effective communication as the educator in the classroom. We want to coach our learners to initiate conversation, that communication. I mean, again, we are not in their heads. We don't know what's going on. So they have to be able to verbally say to us what they need. And then that last component is to ensure that any resource that we are bringing into our curriculum, that we're leveraging it for the best outcome. So I have a quick video for you to watch about learner agency, about dynamic communication.
You had so much to offer yesterday. You okay?
Tired.
So what's going on?
Strong relationships are central to the learning process. What the science of learning and development tells us is that we need to create learning environments which allow for strong long-term relationships for children to become attached to school and to the adults and other children in it.
When children have experiences of closeness and consistency and trust, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin has many, many positive effects on the development of the brain. So when we think about a relationship, we're not just talking about being nice to a child. We're talking about a child having an experience of attunement and trust strong enough to release the hormone oxytocin.
Good morning, Ariana. How you doing today? The purpose of the morning greeting is to connect with them and to just make sure that I'm seeing them as humans. Like I'm making that relationship with them, making that bond.
I prioritize relationship building because getting to know them is the best part of the job.
When I come in the morning, we usually talk about things that are happening in our community.
We're trying to build caring and respect.
The teacher is trying to understand who I am and my values as a person.
When I have a free 45 minutes or an hour, I think to myself, I could sit down and catch up on grading, or I could go and make connections, whether it's a smile or a joke or a reminder. It validates their presence in the building.
Rock it out in the art room. It starts from so much honesty and transparency with kids. It's really easy to strive to be this like idealized, always ready to go elementary school teacher, and that's not real and that's not human. When people start talking about other things while I'm still giving directions, it feels frustrating for me and I have to take a breath. My students connect most with me when they see that I also struggle and I also have challenges. It takes a lot of vulnerability on my part.
Total familiarity. When that student knows that you care about them, when they know that you're a human, let's think about that. Their academic performance in your class is going to be better.
If I'm comfortable around them, then I'm more confident around them and easier to ask questions and things like that.
So when you're looking at this graph, what is it that you think happened?
Some teachers I don't always get along with the best, so then sometimes I'm like, I can't do it, so I'm just not going to do it. But when I like the teacher, I want to do their work. I'll be like, I can learn this.
You all have done outstanding work.
Emotion and learning are completely connected. If you're in a positive emotional space, if you feel good about yourself, your teacher, that actually opens up the opportunity for more learning.
Good to see.
So I love this video because I relate to it on so many levels. First off, having a relationship can't stop at the elementary level, can't stop at the middle school level. It has to continue all the way up, even through college and stuff. That's our job as an educator, because we truly do set the tone for our classrooms, for our courses, when we take the time to recognize who our students are. I remember it. The viral video of that teacher who learned a handshake for each child that stepped across his threshold. I was blown away by that because I'm like, I was an elementary teacher, so I only had 25 kids to remember. This gentleman taught like middle school. So, you know, in middle school, you have multiple courses. So he probably had, 70 plus students that he was remembering a handshake for each child. And I applaud him for that. And even to talk about my own experience as a parent, my daughter is a sophomore in high school. And last year, she wasn't doing very well, and she's a very bright little girl, and she wasn't doing very well in class and wasn't giving effort because she didn't like the professor. And I was like, oh, honey. And I tried to like tell my daughter, you through it. Even if you don't like him, you got to put forth your best foot. But she didn't. And I don't, put a consequence on my child for earning a B instead of an A, but I knew she could have gotten an A. And I know it because in her other classes where she was connecting with teachers, she was soaring. So we have to keep that in our minds, no matter what level we teach. We have to make connections and value those relationships with our students so that they will put forth the effort and want to learn. So come on, click forward. So I have an activity for us. If you've never used Canva, go to canva.com, create an account as a teacher, be a teacher. And Sandra will attest to this, like this is her marketing side. Canva has these great templates that all you have to do is plug in everything you need, and you have this great document or a great newsletter. So if we look at dynamic communication, those 3 components, that first component to support it using Canva, classroom contracts, rules, tickets out the door, create them in Canva because they're appealing and nice, and then share them with your students. The second component of it, modeling and nurturing that effective communication, your newsletters. If you want to start creating newsletters in Canva and putting them out to your students and parents, there you go. And then conferencing, that dynamic communication of that third component of building the trust and stuff, the conferencing. You might create some great templates in Canva to have out on your desk as you're conferencing with your students. So I wanted to share my account with you really quick in Canva. And again, sign up as a teacher because you'll get all the bells and whistles if you're a teacher account versus the regular account. Because the regular stuff, if you do regular, you're gonna have to pay for some of the features and it does cost, but teachers get it free. So at one of the schools I was supporting, I was in a lull where teachers weren't coming to me for stuff. So I thought to myself, okay, how can I engage them? So I created this potty press, and I created these little infographics that I posted in the restroom of all the restrooms that the teachers use. And just like little info, like, hey, here's Minecraft. If you want to know about it, come see me. And I'm telling you, the teachers started coming. They were coming and asking questions and wanting to do stuff. And I did stuff like Minecraft, gave them some ideas for summer PD, tools, posted stuff about tools, come see me, here's Adobe Spark and the great things that it does for you. Like, this is a great way to leverage your student voice is by using Adobe Spark. So of course, these are all tools that their district purchased. So, but it's just one way that I leveraged some of that impactful stuff with my staff. So explore Canva. I want that to be a valuable resource to you. Now I saw you nodding, Patsy. So have you used Canva before?
Yes, we have. Our district encouraged us, I want to say last year, to do the teacher account. So we all have teacher accounts, and yes, we do use it. I actually made an infographic recently off of there, so I was smiling and nodding.
Yeah, no, I'm in love with it because I'm really not that good at instructional designing. So for me just to go plug in everything, like I'm in heaven. So our last standard that I had on our agenda was growth and mastery mindset. And again, as I said, being an educator, I get the definition, but we got to break it down for our stakeholders for our students so that they truly understand what this is. So, I mean, look at that definition. A perspective or attitude towards learning that views it as an outgoing progression or continuous growth and improvement towards new understanding and mastery of interdependent competencies, and not an endpoint of either success or failure. I mean, that's a mouthful. So the way I break it down to my parents or my students is I said, look, this is growth and mastery mindset in a nutshell. I don't know this concept yet, and yet is big, but I will get there. And so that yet is persevering. You know, sometimes things don't have that instant gratification. You got to work hard at it. So we're never going to give up. And again, as that teacher mentioned in the video, you know, it takes a lot for her to be vulnerable. But she finds that when she shows the students her vulnerability and like she's making mistakes, that there's a greater connection with them and her. And you start to see the, you know, engagement and the motivation. So don't be afraid to make mistakes in front of your students and model that for them. So those components of mastery mindset, growth and mastery mindset, is identifying the causes, identify causes of learner struggles. And of course, we are going to co-plan. So we are going to be their thought partner of setting short-term and long-term goals. Design and implement adaptive tools, strategies, and learning experiences. So how are you incorporating the tech tools that are available in your school? What are the strategies that you're teaching the kids to get through the content? And then the last component is preparing learners to monitor their own pace and progress. So again, this is nothing new. We've done this for years, where we have anticipation guides, or we have learning journals, or data notebooks. Every school calls them something different, but it's nothing new. These are best practices that we have done for years as teachers. So when we think about that first component, these are the things I want you to remember in your mind. How do students want to learn? If you've taken those multiple intelligence tests, those are key to helping you with that answer. How do you make help available to students? Do you have your hours posted? You know, during your planning blocks, are you leaving your door open for students to come in and visit and ask questions? How do you help students work towards growth mindset? So do you model for them that, oh, I failed, but look, I'm persevering, I can do this? Because I know many times when I was doing a lesson in the classroom, something would fail and I'd have to pivot real quick to keep the lesson going and keep the learning going. So we want to model that for the kids. And I always used to tell my kids, look, we're flexible. It's okay if we have to stop and do something else, because that's what life's all about. You have to verbally show that with your students. So some tools, and depending on what kind of a school you are, and that's why I try to include both, if you're a Google school or a Microsoft school, you know, these are tools that help support collaborative journaling, audio journaling or video journaling with your students, making yourself available. So, you know, having those forms for checking in, you know, if you want to do feedback, creating a form through Google or through Microsoft and sending it to your students, having your PowerPoints and Google Slides shared so that you can collaborate on it together. I love Jamboards. That's that interactive kind of Google space, collaborative space that Google offers. And then Whiteboard, this is Whiteboard that Microsoft offers. And then I've only dabbled in Wakelet a little bit, but I definitely have subscribed to other people's Wakelet pages. But it's a great space where they're just putting content that, you know, you can use and borrow and learn from. So these are all great sites. Tools, and you don't have to try every single tool today. You know, we're asking you start small. Pick one theme from today's lesson and see how it goes in your classroom. And so another component of growth and mastery mindset is design and implement adaptive tools and strategies and learning experiences. So again, these are my questions. How are you currently using tools to provide personalized experiences for your students? What tools do you use to support goal setting? So ask, have that in your mind as you're going through your lessons and planning. So a way to personalize and support pathways for students is Nearpod. And I was just on a training the other day. They've added some new features to Nearpod that are wonderful, but I love it because I can clone myself as a teacher. I can do a lesson and do it as a student-paced and let that small group of kids work on that student-paced lesson in Nearpod while I work on something else in the classroom. And it collects the data for you. So you can go back and pull reports and see how your students do. But if you do a live session, if you're doing something and the kids aren't understanding it, that's a great time to do that just in time direct instruction where you pause. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add this in to help clarify the concept that we're learning. Or you can pull up a whiteboard and work something out with your students right then and there during the lesson. So I love Nearpod. But our Google Suites and Microsoft Suites, all of these tools, these two companies have really listened to education and have personalized their own tools for us so that we can use them in meaningful ways and that we can leverage them to get the academic success that we're looking for. So, and I always say, don't think of PowerPoint, just as putting a presentation. Like you can flip it and use it in an innovative way. I've seen people use the notebooks, the one notebook as a breakout room, so you can rethink tools all the time. And then Safari Montage was in a district that I worked for because I love this one because it's basically a web-based tool that houses content for you. It's videos or there will be images. It could be also content that you read. And what you do is you create these playlists and students can choose, how they want to learn content. So I'm always a big fan of Safari Montage if your district has it. And that last component of growth and mastery mindset is to teach them how to monitor their own progress. So how do you direct students to productively fail so they continue learning? How do you celebrate the learning instead of their failures? Are you showcasing it in the classroom? Are you posting it out on social media? Such and such did a great job. Oh my gosh, look how innovative this strategy is that one of my students came up with. I mean, we know our high schoolers are on social media. And when they see a teacher, like I've seen many teachers start to TikTok and share that, that little mini lesson out with their students. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive. So are they doing things like that? So tools that can help support you on this journey with portfolios, with managing their data, doing those playlists and hyperdocs. Bloodspace, this is a free site that creates basically kind of like Safari Montage. It creates these tiles that you can pull in content for your students to choose for and do. If your school is subscribed to Canvas, it's another great kind of an LMS that you can do to house content. And then, of course, Padlet. And we educators love a good Padlet because you can, and again, being innovative with Padlet, in the past, I might have just put it as a place where students can post to us a question that I pose. But I've used Padlet to be playlists for my educators. Or I've used it to house resources or created student portfolios. And of course, that Padlet link is, only shared with that student and not the world. So I have this great video about growth mindsets that I wanted to share with you.
The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude.
Hi everybody, my name is Joe. I want to talk to you about creating a growth mindset. I heard that you've been learning about a growth mindset. Am I right? Have you heard of Michael Jordan? He is known as the best NBA basketball player of all time. This is what he says.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 900 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and 26 times I've missed. I've failed over and over again, and that's why I succeed.
Michael Jordan has a growth mindset. This is also known as a positive attitude. There are two different kinds of mindsets. There's a fixed mindset. If you always have a fixed mindset, you'll never go anywhere. And then there's a growth mindset. Have you ever heard of Thomas Edison? He created the light bulb. Can you imagine a world without light bulbs? We would all be living in the dark. Whew, that's better. Did you know Thomas Edison failed at least 1,000 times? That's a lot, isn't it? But Thomas Edison had a growth mindset. This is how he puts it.
I have not failed 1,000 times. I have successfully discovered 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
If he didn't have a growth mindset, he would not have stuck to it and created the famous light bulb. And we might still be living in the dark if it weren't for Thomas Edison's bright idea. My message to you today is for you to create a growing mind. The road to success is not always easy. Don't ever give up. Be positive and you will succeed.
And it's so true. Our attitude is really going to set the tone for how we learn. So I have this activity for you to join in. I have where the fixed mindset, this is what you probably would say. I want us to come up with new statements. As a growth mindset, what might I say? So that first one, I made a mistake and I am beating myself up about it. Instead, what would you say? I made a mistake and I am going to continue to work my best to get it. That would be the growth mindset. So, Patsy, do you want to venture to pick one and tell us what you think?
Let's see. Okay. I made a mistake and I will give up on trying, or I can say, I made a mistake and I'll try and try until I get it right.
Exactly. Yep. And so, that growth mindset in the classroom is a growth mindset classroom is a classroom in which mistakes are welcomed and encouraged. And that's why I said, as educators, look how many times in this presentation I had to stop and reshare because I didn't think my sound worked, or my mouse is really finicky, so that's why the first video stopped and I was like, sorry, I'll fast forward and restart it. But I didn't let that stop me from continuing on to my presentation. I made mistakes and hey, it's okay, we're human, we're going to get through this and you're still going to learn from me today, fingers crossed. But too many times your students will shy away from an activity or raising their hand because they believe their contribution would be futile or their answers are wrong. And we have to stop that. We have to we have to change their minds and let them know that this space is non-judgmental. It's okay if we make mistakes. And that's one thing I love about Nearpod is on the teacher end, I can hide all the names so kids feel more safe to respond, because if a wrong answer pops up on the screen, well, we don't know who did the wrong answer. And so we learn from that. So thank you for coming off mic and participating. So as we move forward and think about goal setting with our students, I want to talk about the best practices for student-centered goals. And so we always start off with our students what a goal is. We want our students to understand what it is and why. The why is important. Why are we setting a goal for the learning? And then for your older kids, you do want to encourage them to make realistic goals that they care about. And as always, we're going to support their understanding and consider discussing it and sometimes establishing like a class-wide goal first is the way to begin, because I always say that first goal is going to set the tone for the rest. So if you have a class-wide goal and then you achieve it as a class, that feeling of accomplishment is great. And so they're going to want that feeling again for the next goal that they set. So then maybe that's when we're doing academic goals. But I never underestimate a personal goal because those are always strong too. So we always want to, for best practices, have expectations. So that's why I said with the older students, don't underestimate having like non-academic goals. And when it comes to displaying anchor charts, like put one of these up, talk about it with your kids when they do goals, because we want our students to realize that our goals should be specific. We want them to be measurable. How are they going to measure this goal that they know that it's met, attainable? What steps are they going to take to attain this goal? How is it relevant, and what they're doing? And then timely, set a time. We can't set a goal and never accomplish it. Give yourself that room to in those goals. So here are some examples that are not even so bad for older kids to have up in the classroom as an anchor chart for the teacher. So we need to display that for our kids, because that's the only way that it's really going to truly be embedded in them, is displaying it, whether it's displaying that whole class goal, or having a way to have individual goals posted, like if it's a badge that you're giving students, so that you're not revealing too much about what their goals are, because we do want to have privacy too with our students. So I have examples that might work out with our students. College should always be a goal for everyone. I think in this day and age, you really do need that under your belt. So is that displayed in your school? Like this one, the road to college begins today, and it's listing stuff, that's getting kids. I love this idea, because this teacher went out, this is like posting assignments and stuff, but this teacher, I'm thinking, again, rethinking stuff. If you take these picture frames, because you can wipe off what you write on the glass, but can kids post, their goals here for their class? And again, connecting with our students, a good Instagram, because they do it like crazy, relating that to posting something in school-wide goals or personal goals that they can have up here. And to me, when I look at these, I think to myself, oh, as a teacher, it's one less thing I have to change throughout the year. I might change like these little pieces to it, but as far as having a display in my room, I don't have to take down the paper, put up new paper, because we're busy. So if I can have one bulletin board up that is up all year round, and I'm only changing minute things about it, that's my route that I'm going. I like to work smarter, not harder. And again, how are we providing these check-ins? So again, that best practice. What kind of check-ins do you have for your students? Are they formal? Are they informal? Because that's the only way they're going to progress through their goals, is checking in and holding them accountable. So these are some images that one of our coaches shared with us. She used to have this, she taught middle school. So she used to have this up in her room, but it was where they could sign up. It had the calendar there. And these are some other things that I thought that would be great. This is the informal check-in. As our students are working, are you having those informal conversations? Hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Let me see what show me, showcase it. They love that kind of stuff. Mental health, we know SEL is so important these days. So do you have that as, for your kids? Make it a goal. Is that a goal for your students, that they want to have good days, and track how many great days they have in a row. And then, of course, forms, Microsoft, you can easily create those check-ins with your kids that way, or they can, post their goals through a form. These are just great best practices when it comes to being on the same level as your kids. Here's a more detailed shot of one of that coach that shared it. She had this as what to bring. So getting the kids prepared. Don't just show up. Like, you got to bring stuff with you. Are you bringing your journaling log? Are you bringing your data? Are you bringing a test so that we can talk about this test that you took? And so this was her Davis Direct EIP board that she had right here. And so I believe she would post announcements and stuff like this for her. Here she had where the kids could tear off a Post-it and write a note to her and leave it here in the hanging folders. This was a light that students could turn on so that it made her aware in the classroom that someone was needing help. And then, of course, a timer. She would always have a timer to keep on track and keep on time with her students, because that's very important. That's part of that executive function. Are you focused? Are you timely? And then finally, we want our students to know that you have to adjust and grow with your goals. So encourage them to check their progress. And have them document that and share with you, because if something's not working, well, it's not going to continue to work. Adjust it, because we want to grow, we want to change. So I have a little bit of an activity for you. It was I want you to set some short-term and long-term goals, and please share them with us. We want to know, if one of your short-term goals was to take something you learned from this and do it. A long-term goal might be something from this and applying it to your students, because we want you to be successful. So to recap, we know that when we're looking at goals for our students, we got to determine the focus. So we're having that collaborative, that thought partner with our students, and we're ensuring the goals are student-centered. We want to meet them where they're at. So we're providing that support that best fits that student's needs. So think about that interest, modalities, their talents. How are you tying that in? And then asking good questions. Ask a question to elicit possible goals for your students, get them to think. And then all of our goals should always be aligned. You want to work with your students to align those goals to their interests, but as well as that content or standard that we need to cover. So we shared out our resource, Esther Park. Check her out. She has some great stuff on her, and it's free. We will drop our our survey in the chat. We always ask for your feedback, again, because I welcome feedback. I want to know that what I'm doing is valuable to you and how I can adjust it to become better. So please give us your feedback. And we appreciate your time here with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for attending. I am placing that link right now to the survey in the chat. Also, just want to make sure that for those of you that come back and catch the replay, that you remember we do have Teacher Bootcamp as an option to both teachers and coaches. And although it is not a mandatory session, we do ask and highly encourage attendance. There are great strategies, tools, resources that are being provided. And yes, we can go back and catch the replay, but we also know that sometimes actually sitting in on a session is very impactful, opposed to going back and trying to figure it out yourselves. So as we move forward, we do encourage you to attend, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your PL specialist and they will be more than happy to get back with you. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you.
And